Tommy was in trouble. He had lost his job and had no money. He was sitting at home, feeling sad and worried. His friend, Alex, came to visit him. "Hey Tommy, I have an idea," Alex said. "We can make some money by selling some things." Tommy looked up. "What things?" "I'll tell you later," Alex said. "But first, we need to talk to someone." Tommy was curious. "Who do we need to talk to?" "Someone who can help us," Alex said. "But we have to be careful. He's not a nice person." Tommy felt a little scared. "Who is it?" But Alex just smiled and said, "You'll see." Tommy and Alex drove to a rough part of town. They stopped in front of a big old warehouse. Alex got out of the car and said, "Wait here." Tommy waited for a few minutes. Then Alex came back with a tall, thin man. The man had a scary face and a loud voice. "This is Vic," Alex said. "He's the one I told you about." Vic looked at Tommy and said, "So, you're the one who needs money?" Tommy nodded. "Yes, I lost my job, and..." Vic cut him off. "I don't care about that. Can you help us with a job?" Tommy looked at Alex, who nodded. "What's the job?" Tommy asked. Vic smiled. "We'll tell you later. First, you have to prove you can be trusted." Tommy felt nervous. What did Vic mean? What kind of job was it? Vic took Tommy and Alex to a small room inside the warehouse. There was a table with some papers and a pen. "Listen carefully," Vic said. "We have a plan to steal some valuable things from a store. We need someone to help us get inside." Tommy's eyes widened. "Steal? I don't know if I want to do that." Vic leaned in, his voice getting louder. "You need money, don't you? This is a chance to get some, and if you don't help us, you'll regret it." Alex spoke up. "Tommy, it's okay. We'll be with you the whole time. It'll be easy." Tommy hesitated. He didn't want to get in trouble, but he really needed the money. "What do I have to do?" he asked Vic. Vic smiled again. "Just sign this paper. It says you agree to help us." Tommy looked at the paper, then at Alex. Alex nodded. So Tommy picked up the pen and signed. As soon as he did, Vic's smile got even bigger. "Welcome to the team," he said. But Tommy felt a knot in his stomach. Had he just made a big mistake? Vic explained the plan. They would steal expensive computers and phones from a store in the mall. Alex would create a distraction at the front door, while Tommy snuck in through a side door and let Vic in. They would fill some bags with the valuable items and meet back at the warehouse. Tommy felt nervous. He had never done anything like this before. But Alex seemed confident, and Vic was in charge. "What if something goes wrong?" Tommy asked. Vic laughed. "Nothing will go wrong. We've done this before. Just do your part, and you'll get your share of the money." Tommy nodded, trying to feel better. But as they left the warehouse, he saw a police car driving by. He felt a shiver run down his spine. That night, Tommy couldn't sleep. He kept thinking about the plan and what could go wrong. He wanted to call it off, but he needed the money too much. The next day, they met at the mall. Alex gave Tommy a nod, and they put their plan into action. Tommy's heart was racing as he made his way to the side door. He looked around nervously, but no one was watching. He inserted the key Vic had given him and unlocked the door. Vic slipped inside, carrying a big bag. "Quickly, Tommy," he whispered. "We don't have much time." Tommy followed Vic to the electronics section. Vic started filling the bag with laptops and phones. Tommy helped, his hands shaking. Just as they were finishing up, they heard a loud noise from the front of the store. Alex's distraction was working, but then they heard another noise. The sound of sirens. The police had arrived. Vic cursed. "We have to get out of here now." Tommy grabbed the bag, and they ran towards the side door. But as they reached it, they found it blocked by a police officer. "You're not going anywhere," the officer said, his hand on his gun. Tommy's heart sank. They had been caught. Vic tried to push past the officer, but he was too strong. The officer grabbed Vic and pinned him to the wall. Tommy dropped the bag and raised his hands. "I didn't want to do it," Tommy said. "Vic made me." The officer looked at him skeptically. "Save it for the judge," he said. Alex appeared, surrounded by more officers. "I didn't know they were going to steal from the store," Alex said. "I just created the distraction like Vic told me to." Vic snarled at Alex. "Shut up, you idiot." The officers handcuffed Vic and Tommy, reading them their rights. As they led them away, Tommy saw the store's security guard smiling. "You're not as smart as you thought you were," the guard said. Tommy felt a wave of shame wash over him. He had made a big mistake. At the police station, Tommy and Vic were put in separate cells. Tommy couldn't stop thinking about what he had done. Detective James came to Tommy's cell. "So Tommy, tell me what happened," he said. Tommy explained how Vic had planned the heist and how Alex had created the distraction. He told the detective that he had only gone along because he needed the money. Detective James listened carefully. "And what about the other times?" he asked. Tommy looked confused. "What other times?" The detective smiled. "Don't play dumb, Tommy. We know about the other stores you've hit. You're not as innocent as you seem." Tommy's eyes widened. "I didn't know about any other stores. Vic never told me." The detective raised an eyebrow. "Save it for the judge, Tommy. You're going down for this." Tommy felt a surge of fear. He had never meant for things to go this far. Just then, the detective's phone rang. He answered, listened for a moment, and then looked at Tommy with surprise. "Looks like we've got a new development," he said. "Vic's lawyer is here, and he's claiming that Vic was working with someone else. Someone who's been pulling the strings all along." The detective's eyes narrowed. "Who is it?" he asked Vic's lawyer. The lawyer smiled. "My client is willing to cooperate fully, but he wants immunity in exchange for his testimony." The detective raised an eyebrow. "What does he know?" The lawyer leaned in. "Vic will testify that Alex was not just a distraction, but the mastermind behind the whole operation." Tommy's jaw dropped. "No way," he exclaimed. "Alex would never." The detective held up a hand. "Let's hear Vic out." Vic was brought in, and he told a shocking story. Alex had been planning the heists for months, using Vic and Tommy as pawns. Alex had been manipulating them all along, using his charm and good looks to get what he wanted. Tommy felt like he'd been punched in the gut. He couldn't believe his friend Alex could do such a thing. The detective turned to Tommy. "Looks like you've been played, Tommy, but you can still make things right. Are you willing to testify against Alex?" Tommy nodded, feeling a mix of emotions: anger, sadness, and relief. Tommy and Vic testified against Alex, revealing the truth about the mastermind behind the heists. Alex was arrested and brought to court. As the trial began, Alex smirked at Tommy and Vic, confident that he would get away with it. But the evidence was overwhelming, and soon Alex's smile faded. The prosecutor presented a recording of Alex's voice, planning the heists and manipulating Vic and Tommy. The jury listened in shock. When it was time for Tommy to testify, he faced Alex in the courtroom. "You used me," Tommy said, his voice shaking. "You pretended to be my friend, but you were just using me for your own gain." Alex sneered. "You were always just a pawn, Tommy. You were never smart enough to see it." But Tommy stood tall. "I may not be smart, but I'm not a criminal, and I'm not going down for your mistakes." The jury delivered a guilty verdict, and Alex was sentenced to prison. As Tommy left the courtroom, he felt a weight lift off his shoulders. He had made mistakes, but he had made things right. Tommy walked out of the courtroom a free man. He had learned a hard lesson, but he was determined to move on. He started by apologizing to the store owners and offering to pay back the money he had stolen. They accepted his apology and gave him a chance to work off the debt. Tommy worked hard, and soon he had paid back every penny. He even got a job at one of the stores, earning an honest living. Vic, on the other hand, was sentenced to community service. He had to work hard to regain the trust of the community, but he was determined to turn his life around. As for Alex, he spent years in prison reflecting on his mistakes. He eventually turned his life around and became a counselor, helping others to avoid the mistakes he had made. Tommy, Vic, and Alex had all made mistakes, but they had learned from them. They had been given second chances, and they were determined to make the most of them. Tommy smiled as he looked out at his new life. He had been through tough times, but he had come out stronger on the other side.
Hi, my name is Amy. I'm a high school student, and I really don't like Mondays. If you ask anyone who knows me, they'll tell you the same. Let me explain why Mondays are the worst day of the week for me. Every Sunday night, I feel a wave of sadness coming over me. I know it's coming, Monday. It's like a heavy cloud that hangs over me, making it hard to relax. The weekend is over, and I have to prepare for the busy week ahead. Sunday nights should be relaxing, but instead, they make me feel anxious. The main problem is that Monday mornings start way too early. I have to wake up when it's still dark outside. My alarm clock rings loudly, breaking the silence of the early morning. I always wish I could ignore it and stay in bed, but I know I can't. My mom calls out from the kitchen, "Amy, it's time to get up. You don't want to be late for school." I drag myself out of bed, feeling groggy and disoriented. I quickly get dressed, usually in the same clothes I wore the week before, because I just don't have the energy to pick out something new. My breakfast is rushed too. Sometimes I only have time to grab a slice of toast or a bowl of cereal before one have to run out the door. I run outside to catch the school bus, which is always a challenge. The bus stop is usually crowded with other students who also look half asleep. We all stand in a line, waiting for the bus to arrive. When it finally does, it's packed with kids from earlier stops. I have to squeeze inside and try to find a place to stand. There's always a lot of pushing and shoving as people try to get on. I manage to get on, but there's no seat left. I have to hold onto a pole as the bus starts moving. The ride feels long and uncomfortable. The bus jolts and sways, and I have to hold on tight to keep my balance. Sometimes I even worry that I might fall if I let go. As the bus moves through the city, I look out the window and see the same old streets and buildings. It's not very exciting. I wish the bus ride could be more pleasant, but instead it feels like a never-ending journey. I keep checking the time, hoping I'll reach school soon. When the bus finally reaches school, I feel a mix of relief and dread. As soon as I step off the bus, I'm greeted by the bustling noise of students chatting and laughing. The school grounds are busy, with everyone rushing to their classes. I walk through the crowded hallways, trying to find my locker. I'm surrounded by other students, and it's hard to move quickly. Some people are chatting loudly, while others are trying to get to class as fast as they can. I finally reach my locker and grab my books for the first class. My locker is filled with papers and books from previous days. I quickly pull out what I need and close it, trying not to get too distracted. The bell rings, signaling that it's time for the first class. I head to my math class, hoping the day will get better. As I enter the math classroom, I notice that most of the students are already seated. I find my desk and sit down, feeling a bit sleepy. Math is usually one of my favorite subjects, but on Mondays, it feels different. The teacher starts the lesson, and I try to focus. Today, we're learning about algebra, which can be tricky. My brain feels like it's moving very slowly, almost like a turtle. I keep trying to keep up with what the teacher is saying, but it's hard to think clearly. I look around the room and see that some of my classmates are having the same trouble. They're staring at their notebooks with confused expressions. The teacher asks a lot of questions, and I can tell that everyone is struggling. I try to answer, but my mind feels foggy. Even though I like math, Mondays make it seem harder. I keep checking the clock, hoping that the class will end soon so I can get a break. Finally, the bell rings, and it's time for the next period. I pack up my things and head to my next class, hoping that the day will start to improve. After what feels like an endless morning, it's finally time for lunch. As I walk to the cafeteria, I start to feel a little better. Lunchtime is a chance to relax and talk with my friends, which always makes me feel happier. I find a spot at one of the lunch tables where my friends are already sitting. They greet me with smiles and jokes, which is a nice change from the stress of the morning. We chat about different things, from the weekend to our favorite TV shows. We all share a common feeling about Mondays. One of my friends says, "Why can't every day be Saturday?" We all laugh because we know how true that is. Saturdays are fun and relaxing, while Mondays are just the opposite. While we eat, we talk about our plans for the week and what we're looking forward to. It's great to be able to forget about math and focus on something more enjoyable, even if it's just for a short while. I feel much better by the end of lunch, ready to tackle the rest of the day. But soon enough, the lunch break ends, and we have to go back to class. As I walk to my next lesson, I try to hold on to the positive feeling from lunch. I hope that the afternoon will be better than the morning. After lunch, it's time for gym class. On most days, I enjoy gym. I like playing sports and running around with my friends. But on Mondays, it's a different story. I always feel extra tired and sluggish after lunch. When we enter the gym, I can see that everyone is gearing up for a game. Our gym teacher, Mr. Clark, is setting up for a basketball match. He's very enthusiastic, always cheering us on and encouraging us to do our best. But today, I'm just not feeling it. My legs feel heavy, and all I want to do is sit down. Mr. Clark notices that I'm not my usual self and says, "Come on, Amy. You can do it. Let's give it our best shot. I try to push through, but it's hard. Every move feels like it takes a lot of effort. I look around and see that some of my friends are also struggling. It seems like everyone is feeling the Monday blues. We play a few rounds, but it's clear that the energy is low. I'm relieved when the class finally ends, and we can head back to the locker room. Finally, the school day is over. I'm so relieved. The whole day felt like it dragged on forever. As soon as the bell rings, signaling the end of classes, I pack up my things quickly. I can't wait to go home and rest. I head to the bus stop, feeling exhausted. The bus ride is always a mix of crowded and noisy. Today, it feels especially cramped. I stand for the whole ride, holding on to the strap for support. My backpack feels like it weighs a ton, and I'm just counting the minutes until I'm home. When I finally get off the bus, I make my way back home. The walk from the bus stop to my house is short, but it feels longer on days like this. I just want to get inside and put my feet up. As soon as I get home, I drop my backpack and kick off my shoes. I'm so glad to be in the comfort of my own space. The first thing I do is head to the kitchen and grab a snack. I'm usually so hungry by now, and it's nice to have something to eat. After my snack, it's time to tackle homework. I sit down at my desk, pull out my books, and start working. Homework is not the most exciting part of my day, but it has to be done. I know that if I get it finished now, I can relax later. I start with math homework because I find it easiest to do when I'm still a bit tired. The problem seems simpler now that I'm away from the classroom. Even though it's a bit boring, I try to focus and get it done quickly. Once I finish math, I move on to my other subjects. English and history are a bit harder, but I try to stay focused. Sometimes I listen to music while I work. It helps me concentrate and makes the homework a bit less tedious. As I work, I think about the day. It's been long, and I feel like I've used up all my energy. But I remind myself that tomorrow is Tuesday, which is usually better than Monday. I look forward to that. When I finally finish my homework, I feel a sense of relief. The hardest part of my day is over, and I know I can soon relax. I look at the clock and see that it's almost time for dinner. My mom is in the kitchen, cooking something delicious. The smell of food makes me feel a little better. I sit at the dinner table with my family and tell them about my day. My mom listens and gives me advice, while my dad tries to make us laugh with jokes. It's nice to have this time with them. They help me feel more positive about the week. After dinner, I have some free time. I might watch TV or read a book. Sometimes, I even call a friend to chat. It's a good way to unwind after a long day. I always feel better when I do something I enjoy. As the evening goes on, I start getting ready for bed. I brush my teeth, change into my pajamas, and get into bed. I'm tired, but I feel good knowing that Monday is almost over. I think about what I can do tomorrow to make the day better. I remind myself that Tuesdays are usually easier for me. They are not as stressful as Mondays. I plan to do my best in school and try to enjoy my classes more. I know that the week gets better after Monday. Before I go to sleep, I think about something fun I can do in the week. Maybe I'll meet a friend or try a new hobby. These little things make me excited and help me get through the tough days. I close my eyes, hoping that Tuesday will be a better day. Even though Mondays are tough, I try to stay positive and look forward to what the rest of the week will bring.